Today on Blue Values TV, part 1 of immigration reform. We're going to talk today about why immigration reform is important for us to do, how it will benefit all of us to do that. Stay tuned. Welcome to Blue Values TV, a production of the Blue Values Coalition. The Blue Values Coalition is a nonprofit organization dedicated to informing, educating, and engaging our neighbors in the governance of our communities. Look for us online at www.bluevaluescoalition.org. Our guests today are Mr. Carolos Alcala and Ms. Flora Csontos. Mr. Alcala is the chairman of the Chicano-Latino Caucus for the California State Democratic Party. He grew up in El Paso, Texas, and he went to college at the University of Texas, El Paso, as well as at Harvard and Yale University. Ultimately, he received his Doctor of Law degree at Harvard University. He has a long history working for and fighting for civil rights for people of all ethnic groups and all organizations. And Ms. Flora Csontos shares the same title once held by President Obama. She is a community organizer. Ms. Csontos is with the Placer People of Faith Together organization. This is an interfaith organization right here in Placer County, which is dedicated to improving the lives of a group of people, all the people that are living here, and trying to attack social issues on the interfaith basis. Welcome, Ms. Csontos.
Thank you.
Good to see you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, let me start with you, Ms. Csontos. We're going to be talking about immigration reform, and we've heard a lot about the need for immigration reform. With over 11 million undocumented workers in this country, it seems that we need to do something, but I want to start out asking, why do we need to do something? Now, I hear so many comments, and you've probably heard them too. People are saying that, look, we already have enough laws on the books. We need to just enforce the laws. People are here illegally. They should be deported. They should be removed from the country. They're taking up our resources. We're spending a lot of taxpayer money supporting undocumented workers. What is the view of the Placer People of Faith Together organization and your views on what we should be doing about the problems that we have? And what are the problems? What are the problems that undocumented people face today?
That's certainly a question that's been expressed a lot, especially in the latter half of last year when this really hit the fan, all of the immigration reform legislation. In our coalition of churches, we stretch from Meadow Vista all the way down to Roseville here in Placer County. There's been a lot of discussion about where these members of the community are, where they're working, and the lack of recognition for how they support our communities. And so one of the basic principles of really any of our faith communities is the dignity of each person. And we're not seeing that being upheld in how our country is recognizing these folks who are building all of these societies, all of these cities that we're living in, who are part of our fabric, part of our workplaces, part of our faith communities who worship with us. And I don't think anybody's arguing here for an amnesty to just have this happen overnight. A lot of what has been proposed is a pathway to citizenship, an earned pathway. And this would include a couple of years of waiting, some fees, back paying taxes has been proposed as well. And so putting this chance on the table for people to, so to speak, earn their way into this country is something that we as people of faith see as not only a given as children of God, as of our Creator, but of something that can boost our economy, that will include these people as part of our society, given that they're already contributing. And so I think to look at this problem, not only, I mean, we're a nonpartisan organization, and to not only look at this from a political point of view, but to insist that this is a moral issue. Families are being divided every single day, separated. To recognize that our families are being broken apart is something that we won't stand for here in placer communities of faith.
So a basic moral issue. Mr. Alcala, would you like to add something to that?
Well, the need, I think, for immigration reform couldn't be more clear in this country. I mean, right now, if we don't do something with the immigration, we're creating a permanent underclass. And if immigration reform isn't correctly approached, we could be creating a class of people in this country who work below minimum wage, who are exploited, who have no recourse to laws. When crimes occur, they can't turn to the police because the police might deport them. So that crimes may occur, you have all of these problems that can result from just simply ignoring the problem.
But what about the complaint that I've heard, and I'm sure you have heard also, that any program that provides a pathway towards citizenship for the undocumented in this country is somehow unfair to those that are waiting in line or who have gone through the process in a legal manner? Are we letting people jump in line and somehow victimizing people who are playing by those rules?
Well, maybe the line itself is unfair. I was with a friend of mine the other day, Sergio Garcia. You may have read about him. He's the undocumented lawyer, like
Right.
the Lone Ranger or something. But he submitted his paperwork to become a lawful resident in the United States over 20 years ago.
Right.
His father's a citizen. What's going on? What's wrong with that picture? You know, when people, the original, when people immigrated to this country, they didn't have that sort of thing. When my grandparents, on one side of my family, crossed into this country in 1906, they signed a piece of paper and walked in. And we complied with all the laws by doing that. On the other side of my family, the United States immigrated into our areas, and they didn't sign anything at all. You know, we were in San Marcos, Texas. Our family was in San Marcos, Texas, Mexico. Well, it was Mexico, and then it became the Republic of Texas, and then it became the United States. Nobody signed anything coming in. They just came in and took over the area. You know, that's the other part of our family. I think that over the years, there have been many ways that people have come into this country. It hasn't always been one static method. It's been many methods. Today's method are particularly discriminatory to people of color. In fact, at one time, I'm going to tell you, I used to spend my weekend, I used to be the lawyer for Cesar Chavez, and I would spend my weekends in a place called Agbayani Village. And the people that lived in Agbayani Village were older Filipino men, all alone. And let me tell you why they were alone. When they came to this country to harvest our crops and plant our farms and do all that work, Filipino women were not allowed to come to the United States. So they grew old and they went to Agbayani Village to die. And the United Farm Workers set up the village, and that's where they went. But the laws in our country have not been static or standard, and many times not fair.
Let's talk about the undocumented people in this country a little bit. You've heard, and I've heard, complaints that people are not working. They come here to take advantage of our system. They don't pay taxes. They clog our emergency rooms. These are some of the fears that people have. Perhaps it's an excuse for them to, rationalize the concerns that they have in some way. What is your observation of the people that we're talking about? Because I've seen a lot of people who are not documented, and they're some of the most hardworking people that I've ever seen. So what's the real truth? What's going on here?
Well, I think the truth is that we badly need them in this nation.
Yeah.
If we don't have the population to sustain our older population, guys like me may end up on the street homeless. I'm already 65. And we need a Social Security system that is stable. You cannot sustain a Social Security system with an aging population and a decreasing ratio of younger people to older people. You gotta have younger people working. In Germany now, they're trying their hardest to get people to immigrate because of the declining ratio cannot sustain the older population. The same thing is happening in the United States. If we continue to bury our head in the sand and think that everything's going to be all right and everything's going to work out without us having to do something about things like the Social Security system and getting the workers' ratio correct, we're going to end up with very, very deep problems. These people are very hardworking. They don't come here not to work because they can't get any of those benefits. All those great benefits, they're ineligible for.
Right.
They can't get those benefits. So it's silly. The only ones who are benefiting from this is $150 billion that they have paid into the Social Security system, for which they will never see a dime.
That's right.
Because they pay into that system and cannot draw from the system. So where does that $150 billion go? Do we call it welfare if older Americans are getting it by Social Security? I don't think so. I think older Americans earned it.
Yeah. Yeah. Ms. Chontos, any observations on the people here?
I absolutely agree. Citizenship isn't only a question of your paperwork and how you came in, but it's the right to live a productive lifestyle in this country. And that is completely being denied to many of our families. I'm thinking especially now of several of our community members in our local churches who clean offices, clean houses, work in yards, work in sales, work in fast food chains, many of them, who are not allowed any security in their life, not allowed this way to prepare for their future, to support their children in an even more meaningful way. And to see this is really disappointing in our nation, to see that this is how we were built, and to see that we're not honoring those who continue to come and those who are doing some of the hardest jobs and are not being recognized for that is just setting us up to fail.
And in fact, a lot of our industries are absolutely reliant on the labor
Absolutely.
provided by undocumented workers. There was a law passed recently in the state of Alabama that I'm sure you're familiar with, where they were trying to crack down on undocumented workers, and as a result, they found that they didn't have people to pick the crops in the state of Alabama. Whatever happened to that, and what did you think of that effort? Did it highlight some of the problems with trying to be too heavy-handed and not recognizing what actually needs to be done?
I think those laws are passed as a result of fear, not reason.
Yeah.
Because when you reason things out and you think about, what is the effect of some of these laws, you have to think, well, what happens tomorrow if I pass this law today? And I would like to think that the legislators would think about that. Many of them don't. We spend about 1 penny out of every dollar on the people that plant the crops, thin the crops, harvest the crops, send the crops to market, and then other 99 cents goes elsewhere. So we live in a country in which the people that do all the work to feed our nation can't afford to feed their own families.
That's remarkable. So the little money that farm workers make is not enough to take care of themselves. Well, how do they survive?
Well, they're not alone. I think in this country we have a growing inequality in income. It hasn't been this bad since the Great Depression. the disparity between in income in this country is enormous, and it's growing. At the same time, our middle class is shrinking. So these problems extend not only to the undocumented, but it really goes to our whole nation. I mean, if somebody's going to buy a car, just how many cars can you buy?
Yeah.
If you have a large middle class, they're going to consume, they're going to buy many cars. But if you have 200 families that get an enormous amount of the wealth in this country, how many cars can they park in that garage? They're not going to be consuming. And if they're not consuming, our economy takes a tailspin. It is the middle class that has built America.
That's right, and we're just decimating it. We seem to be building up a lower class, however, in frightening numbers. And what you're talking about is that this community represents the lowest of the low class right now. People have no money to live, to feed their families, to house their families. They have to rely on each other for assistance, live in larger groups. Not quite the American dream.
Well, take a place like West Sacramento. In West Sacramento, you have large immigrant populations. In the year 2000, the unemployment rate in West Sacramento was 5%. Today, it's almost 15%. It has tripled. Stores have come in, and the stores that have come in are now offer part-time, minimum wage jobs. The mom and pop businesses that used to be there, like Hollywood Hardware, are gone. They've been wiped out. At the same time, in other parts of California, the unemployment rate has gone up only a couple of percentage points, and in the nation, a couple of percentage points. But West Sacramento, which is an immigrant area, has suffered immensely.
So let's talk about the face of undocumented people in this country. What are they like? Who are they? Are they families? Are they single men and women? Are they children? What exactly does that look like? What have you observed?
Well, I don't want to speak for everyone. It's certainly dangerous to try to describe one group as all being the same. I've met a lot of families, some separated families as well, either parents or children who have been deported. And from many different countries. I mean, this is not only a Latino issue. When we were helping some of our young dreamers, undocumented students, apply for deferred action that the president passed just last year, we had a Mongolian young woman come in as well. Our Sacramento affiliate saw, I believe, a few Asian Hmong community members as well. And so to see this broad spread of immigrants who are from so many different places, are in so many different, family setups and whatnot, it's exciting to think that they could be incorporated into our country and to move us forward in, not only the technology and the science and math areas, but also the other contributions they would make as clergy, as members of our workforce, of our student base, and you were born outside of the country as well, and to see the incredible skills that are brought in by immigrants and children of immigrants is something we strongly believe in, and it's silly to think that we're getting in our own way right now.
You asked what about the face of the new immigrants.
Yeah.
Generally, they're working class and they're working age. You'll get some at both ends, but generally the population that's coming over is a working age population, and that is so necessary to our country.
That's right. Yeah, that's the misperception that I think is out there the most, and that is that somehow the people coming here are just on welfare and they're mooching off of the American taxpayer, when it's just the opposite. It's more that these are the people that are running the stores, that are entrepreneurs, that are working, they're paying taxes, they're paying into our system without really getting anything out of it, as you said.
But look, everybody knows that when you work, the taxes come out of your paycheck.
Right.
Unless you
Payroll
own the
taxes.
store. You know, unless all these people coming over across the border are owning all the big Safeways and are buying everything and they're owning everything and they're not paying taxes on it. That's not what's happening.
No.
They're working in those stores. They're working in all these jobs. They're getting paid on a payroll. And the people that are paying them for the payroll are deducting their taxes. And those taxes are going into the government. And they're not getting any of it back. Billions and billions and billions of dollars are going into the American economy from which these undocumented workers will never see any benefit.
So that's the case why we have to do something to basically right a wrong. We're mistreating some people that are here in this country. They are not getting rights, they're not getting protection, they're paying into a system that they're not going to benefit from. That's the injustice that we're trying to deal with? Is that a fair statement?
It is, but it isn't just injustice, because it's ourselves that we're mistreating too. If we don't deal with this problem, we're going to have bigger problems. If you send those people back to Mexico, the Social Security system will collapse. The economy, our agricultural system, will be in dire straits, just as it was in Alabama. You saw what happened in Alabama when they decided to take the workers out of the field and out of the workers. The industries that were dependent on them collapsed.
That's right.
And you know, I think a lot of this stems from treating someone as a unit of labor rather than recognizing their ties to their family who live outside of the country, recognizing they have people they're supporting. We saw a lot of this with the Bracero program, that people were treated, were allowed to come over with visas and work for a certain amount of time and were asked to go back. And a lot of them didn't go back, and some of their families came over. When you only focus on the person as someone who's working for you 40 hours or sometimes more a week, that's not fully who they are. I think when we start to think about them as mothers and brothers and fathers, sisters, cousins, you begin to see more of how they're contributing to our society, not only into our, our communal taxes and our Social Security, but that there's so much that they offer. And are we recognizing that in a way that is beneficial and supportive of our economy and our nation?
So, what are the things that need to be done? There's a few initiatives, a few laws that have been passed. Let me cite some of those laws. There's the Trust Act. And the Trust Act is, as I understand it, it's helping make it so that people are not fearful of the police. It's kind of breaking the linkage between reporting something to the police and having it go to the Immigration and Naturalization Service. It provides trust on both ends between the police and the citizens in the community. That's one. That's a law that's happened. The Affordable Care Act, which undocumented people are not eligible for, but the Affordable Care Act is having an influence on all of the people in this country that are here legally. The driver's license law is going to provide a provision for undocumented workers to receive driver's licenses, a different type of a driver's license, but a driver's license, and hopefully reduce the fear that their cars are going to be impounded. Or that they'll be deported for a minor traffic infraction. These are some of the laws, and Ms. Csontos, I understand that you're having a fair on Saturday, March...
This Saturday, yeah, the 22nd.
22nd, March 22nd in Lincoln, and we'll show the flyer on that. You're basically providing a forum in Lincoln, California to discuss these laws, what the impact is, and to explain what the impact of these laws will be to people in the community.
That's right, and it's open to everyone, free of charge. There's translation for English and Spanish speakers. We know that the Affordable Care Act has been very difficult to navigate for many people, and we're absolutely here to help with that. We've been working in partnership with our County Department of Health and Human Services in rolling this out, getting people signed up. And our county, I think, is actually ahead of the statewide average for the number of folks that they've signed up as a population of their county. And so we'll start this Saturday at 4:30 at the St. Joseph Parish Hall, and all are welcome. This is sort of a rotating informational forum that we've taken from Auburn to Roseville, and we're now going to Lincoln. We've had some of our law enforcement come and talk about the Trust Act, how that's changing their work.
How's the cooperation been between law enforcement and your organization on this?
It's been a really strong working relationship, and with Placer People of Faith, we've had several research meetings with the Sheriff's Office, the Sheriff Bonner himself, as well as with the Roseville Police Department, Auburn Police Department. Both of the chiefs there have been at our past events and have talked about what the Trust Act and driver's license laws will mean for their departments. And we're just getting to know the Lincoln chief as well, Chief Marks. It's been really great to have their support, and I think it's been very eye-opening not only to them but to the undocumented community of how much they want to work with them to increase public safety. And they have said over and over again, I have heard this from every single department, from the sheriff's office, they are not immigration officials. They are not here to ask people for their papers. This isn't Arizona. They're not here to get people in trouble, to pull you over because you look a certain way. They want to ensure public safety, to be there when there's a crime committed. But the other half of that is the community reporting the crime. And that's one of the issues we've identified in our immigration work, is that a lot of our undocumented families are afraid to call their local law enforcement. Sometimes with good reason. There have been some disappointing events that have happened. But on the whole, recently, there's been a strong effort from both sides to re-strengthen and rebuild this relationship.
That sounds fantastic. That's the kind of thing we like to highlight too, is so Placer County and your organization is trying to make a positive difference in the community. We understand the constraints of the laws that we have nationwide, but we can still go ahead and try to make the environment better for people who are actually here.
And California's been a leader on that. I mean, with passing the Trust Act, the driver's license law, it's really modeling it for the rest of the country. And there's no reason we can't create a stronger county, even if, you know, the nation hasn't moved into immigration reform yet.
Thank you for joining us on Blue Values TV. Next week, we will continue with part 2 of this show, talking more about what needs to be done and what we can do to help bring about immigration reform right here at home. I hope you'll join us next week, and until then, good night.